One of the biggest real estate industry stories right now is not just mortgage rates, low inventory, or affordability. It's who controls the listing, who sees it first, and how homes are brought to market. That's why Howard Hanna's launch of HannaList matters. According to current reporting, Howard Hanna launched HannaList, a private listing network that began rolling out in April of this year, 2026, in Northeast Ohio and Western Pennsylvania. And they have plans to expand further during 2026. The system allows Howard Hanna listing agents and their clients to share listings internally with Howard Hanna buyer agents before the property is broadly distributed through the MLS. The company says the goal is to help sellers understand buyer demand, refine timing and positioning, and build momentum before a wider public launch. Howard Hanna has also said the initiative was developed with partners including MLS Now and West Penn Multilist, and designed to work within current MLS rules. Now, on the surface, you could look at this and say, okay, this is just one brokerage introducing one more seller tool. But I think that misses the real story. The real story is that this is another major signal that the battle over listing exposure is changing shape in real time. For years, the industry operated with a broad assumption that getting a property into the MLS and out to the widest audience was the gold standard. Maximum exposure was the baseline argument. The idea was simple. More exposure means more buyers, more competition, and the best shot at the best result. But in today's environment, more brokerages are challenging that assumption. They're saying a listing launch does not have to be one size fits all. They're saying some sellers may benefit from a more controlled rollout. They're saying a listing can be treated refined and strategically introduced before it goes everywhere. That's the philosophical lane Howard Hanna is stepping into with HannaList. And to be fair, there is a logic to that argument. A seller may want to quietly test the pricing. A seller may want early feedback before going wide. And a seller may want to avoid immediate public days on market. An agent may want to gauge interest before making broader exposure decisions. From that angle, a structured pre-market or private network phase can sound strategic, even consumer-friendly. Howard Hanna's framing is centered around exactly that. Company leadership has said that HannaList is about strategy, consumer choice, demand insight, and avoiding a one-size-fits-all launch model. But that is only one side of the conversation. The other side is where this gets more complicated. Critics of private listing networks argue that when homes are kept inside brokerage ecosystems longer, the market becomes less transparent. Buyers working outside those networks may not have the same access. Other agents may not have the same opportunity. And if more brokerages build internal distribution channels, the broader marketplace can start to fragment. That matters because real estate is not just about strategy for one seller. It's about the trust in the system. If consumers start to feel that inventory is increasingly hidden, gated, or selectively distributed, then the question becomes whether the industry is moving towards smarter marketing or toward a more closed ecosystem where brokerage scale determines who gets first look access. And that is a major industry question. What makes the Howard Hanna story especially important is that this is not a fringe player making noise in the sidelines. Howard Hanna is one of the largest real estate brokerages in the country, and the company's move suggests this model has enough momentum that large firms believe it's worth operationalizing, branding, and scaling. Howard Hanna's own website says it's the country's largest privately owned brokerage and operates across a broad multi-state footprint. So if you're an agent or a broker, what should you be paying attention to? First, understand that listing strategy is becoming a competitive differentiator. It means more sellers may start hearing pitches about phased launches or internal exposure, private networks, and controlled rollout strategies. Whether you agree with those approaches or not, you need to be prepared to explain them clearly. Second, understand that policy language matters. Howard Hanna and its partners have emphasized that HannaList is intended to work within current MLS rules. That tells you something important. This debate is not only about what is possible, it's about what is permissible, how platforms interpret compliance, and how brokerages try to innovate without stepping outside existing frameworks. And third, understand that transparency debate is not going away. This is not a small tactical dispute. It touches the core of how homes are marketed, how buyers find inventory, how cooperating brokers operate, and how listing data flows through the industry. Commentators have already described Howard Hanna's move as part of a larger escalation and possibly even an inflection point in the private listing debate. Fourth, think about what this means for your own market. If you work in a region where Howard Hanna has a large footprint, This story is immediately practical. If you work elsewhere, it still matters because other firms may adopt similar models. The question is not whether private listing networks exist. The question is how normal they become. And that is where the industry has to wrestle with a few hard truths. Seller choice is important. Marketing strategy is important. Innovation is important, but market visibility is also important. Buyer access is important. Cooperation is important. The challenge is that those values do not always pull in the same direction. That's why I think agents and brokers need to avoid lazy takes on this issue. It's too easy to say private networks are always bad. It's too easy to say open exposure is always better in every scenario. And it's too easy to say this is only about technology. This is really about control. Control over how the listing launches, control over who sees it first, control over the data, and control over the client narrative. And when the control shifts, the structure of the market often shifts with it. That's why Howard Hanna's HannaList is the story worth paying attention to. It's not just one more product release. It's a visible sign that the listing model itself is being renegotiated in public. For agents, the practical takeaway is simple. Know what private listing networks are. Know how they're being pitched. Know what the benefits are supposed to be. Know what the criticism is. And be ready to explain all of it to sellers in a way that is honest, balanced, and market-specific. Because this is not a conversation that will stay inside boardrooms and industry conferences. It's already moving into listing presentations, recurring conversations, brokerage strategy, and consumer expectations. And in my opinion, that makes it one of the most important real estate topics agents should be talking about right now. If you want more real estate breakdowns like this, follow along. I'll keep taking current industry news and turning it into practical insights for agents, brokers, and anyone trying to understand where the market is actually heading.